Welcome back. So there's a fine line between a bride who knows what she wants and being a bridezilla, and that of course is dreaded. Wedding guru, planner, and author of Wonder-Filled Weddings Michael Nolte is here to show brides how to be a VIP for all of your vendors. So that first initial meeting, do we talk about Pinterest photos, budget, or both?
Well, usually that's two different weddings. There's the
the
wedding that
want,
a bride
yeah.
sees on Pinterest, and then there's a wedding that she can actually afford. Actually, both are very important. One of the things that I think that causes tension in every wedding planning is always the B word, and that is budget. So be honest about your budget right off the bat, but also then show that vendor maybe a couple pictures of favorite cakes or favorite flowers that you like, kind of gives them a direction to go. But if there's a ceiling figure in which you say, just don't go beyond this in flowers, for instance, then the florist can start advising you in things that are going to be within the budget.
I think so many things can be solved by that, just being honest about the budget and staying true to that.
Yeah, totally.
Now, here's another important question. How do I get the best service out of the people I'm working with?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things with that. One would be that you'd always want to work by an appointment. I mean, just don't pop into a busy company and expect them to drop everything and be able to help you at that time and then be frustrated that they can't. So always work by an appointment. Always think it's always nice if the bride would even send a reminder, text or an email the day before to just be sure that it still works out for that vendor. Or maybe it slipped through the cracks because of that vendor is so busy. And you want to work with vendors that are so busy because they have so much business,
right,
that you want to have an appointment. So that'd be one thing. Don't surprise them. Always work by an appointment and send a reminder note the day before.
I love that. It's like you're giving us all the facts that we should know. If you have an appointment, go to it and try to make one if you can.
And be on time for it. That's right.
Be on time,
yeah.
Right. Okay, so should I try to manage all of the contracts myself, or are there ways that I can get a little bit of help?
You know, the beauty of having a good wedding coordinator, of course, is that's the person who's supposed to do that for you and does do that. And in just a few minutes, I can review a contract that would take you hours to try to figure out. And then I always keep a copy of that in the file for the bride. I think that sometimes when you get down into the weeds, is what I call it, and you start to micromanage vendors and you're trying to micromanage contracts, that really takes the joy and the pleasure out of it. So if you're working with vendors that have a great reputation, have been in business a long time, they have great reviews, you've heard about their work from friends, trust them to do their very best work. Don't micromanage them.
It's something that if they put on hundreds of weddings, maybe even thousands, you can have that trust because of word of mouth.
That's exactly right. It doesn't matter really what somebody's website looks like because, you know, anybody can pay to have a fancy website up, but you cannot ever substitute experience and exposure in that particular product category.
Okay, this question almost makes me laugh a little bit, but should we get into a bidding war with similar vendors so that they'll actually lower their prices?
As a vendor myself, you know, the owner of Nolte's Bridal now for 39 years, I am grateful if a bride comes back to me and says, I found the same dress someplace else out of town for $200 less. I'd rather do business with you. Is there any chance that you would price match? The answer is always going to be yes, of course. So I don't think that that's causing a bidding war. I think that's giving a store an opportunity to still make the sale and you still get to have that relationship. But I think that whenever you start pitting two vendors, particularly here in Kansas City, that all know each other, against each other, whoever's going to give you the cheapest price on everything, the vendor's going to end up resenting that particular bride. And so a bidding war between vendors is never a good idea. I think the bride always ends up losing.
So it's always about how you handle it. Do you handle it in a mature approach and maybe not between places in Kansas City?
Well, true. And one of the other thing too I mentioned is always affirm your vendors. Always, rather than saying, oh, I'm just sure this is going to be goofed up, or I doubt that you know what you're doing, or I've heard something about you, that kind of thing. And I've heard brides do that in other categories, and I'm sitting there just cringing when they say that to a caterer or someone. Just say, I know this is going to be amazing. I absolutely love your work. I heard such fabulous things. And that makes the vendor just want to rise to the occasion and not just meet, but surpass your expectations.
So it's like if you're a joy to work with, people are going to want to work with you and they're going to want to bring their A game.
They want to bring their A game, their A team. That's always when you're going to get just a little bit more for the money as well. You know, if it's a difference between adding 3 or 4 more roses or another tier of cake and not being charged for it, that particular vendor is going to want to do that for the bride who has been affirming and joyful and appreciative of their work all along. Weddings are a lot of work for wedding vendors, and it's nice to work for people who appreciate
Well, Michael, thank you so much. And I think all the women want to be somebody when you leave. They're saying, I'm really glad I got to work with them as opposed to the alternative. Thank you.
My pleasure. See you next month.